Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, in this lesson, we will learn about the four section. So, section 1, we will discover about synchronous and asynchronous tasks. And section 2, we will discover about the callback and callback help. And section 3, we will discover about the promise. And finally, in section 4, we learn about async await. So in the first section, we will go through the synchronous and asynchronous tasks. I have the questions is what is the synchronous and asynchronous task? So I will have the result. We have the console task in here, a console 1, 2, and 3. When I say it, you can see in the right side, we have the result, a 1, 2, and 3. So all the all the result or all the tasks in here is executed sequentially. So because console log in here is a synchronous task, so synchronous task is a task executed immediately. So it don't any the time to wait. So I have another task is set them out. So we set them out after the 2 second time delay. I will call the console log 2 and I say it, you can see 1, 3, and after 2 seconds, a 2. Because sets them out a asynchronous task, so it needs wait some time, and after the time waited, it will execute it. And because set them out in here is a asynchronous task, so it will push into web API and run in background. So after the time wait, it will execute it by put the console log into in here in the main flow and execute it with the result into. So all the synchronous tasks will execute it in normal. We have the result in 1 and 3. As after we finish the synchronous task, the asynchronous task will uh, push into main flow after 2 second wait time, and we have the result in 2, and finally we have the result in 1, 3, and 2. So it's a synchronous as asynchronous task. I will comment it and move to section 2, a callback and callback help problem. So what is the callback function? I have an example. We have the function gets later with the callback parameter in here as after 2 seconds in system out delay, we will call the callback function. And in the in below, we will call the gets later function with we pass the arguments a callback function like this. So now it seems like we have the cons as callback in here. So we assign it with the callback function in here. So I copy here, though it's same like this. So now in here we call the callback function. In here it will execute the function in here. And we have the console log hello after 2 second time delay of set timeout. When I say it, you can see after 2 second time we have the hello. So it's a callback function. Callback function is the function we put into a parameter of another function, and that function will execute it. After that, it's a callback function. So now we go through the problem callback help. So in here, I will open the command to see the problem callback help. So in another function, in another example, we have the three function, a function A, function B, and a function C. In each function, we also have the callback function like a parameter of that function. So callback function will call after 2 second time delay of set timeout in here. So in below, we will call the function A and we pass this arguments in your callback function. So after 2 second time delay in here, callback function is called. So all the costs in the scope in here of the callback function will execute it. And we have the data variable in here by we call the function a yes data from server. So it's like we call API from server and we get data from database. As in here, we have the function it gets data from server with the parameters it input with default value is 0. So if we don't push any arguments in get data from server in here, so we will use the default value is 0. So now this function it returns inputs plus 1. So 0 plus 1 is we have the end value is 0, a 1. So the data is will have the result a 1. And now in above, in below, we call another function, a function b. So now we can see this a function b. So we function b also have the callback function, and after 2 seconds, the callback function is called again. And you can see here now the callback function is like this. And after 2 seconds, the callback function is called. Oh, I have the questions why we netted the function into another callback function. Because you can see here, we have the callback function in the function B have the data variable and it will yield the argument the data age from above in here of callback function of function A. So now you can see the data B a want to get data, but it depends on the results of data 8 from callback function above. So this is the reason why we need to net it the function into another callback function. So it seems like the function C in here. So the function C in here, we call it inside another callback function in function B. So it's also called the callback function in here and have the result in, we have the data C. But data C now is dependent on the data B from the callback function of function B. So when I say it, you can see we have the 2 seconds. After 2 seconds, the data A with the result is 1. As after 2 seconds, data B with result is 2. As after 2 seconds, we have a data C with result is 3. And it's finished. So it's the reason why we have the pyramids. You can see we have the pyramids in here. But if we push a lot of the uh, function into another callback function like this. So you can see the pyramid is very big and it's very high. So the with the callback in here, we call it a callback hell. So callback hell is very difficult for us to readable and maintainable in the future. So if it has some errors, it's very difficult for us to research and to find any of the bug in the comment in here because it now is native from the callback function. So to fix this problem, a callback hell, we will go through another definition of promise. So we go through the section 3, a promise. I will comments in here. So in the section 3, a promise. I have the question, what's a promise? So promise is an object. It's object, and that object will have all information about the stage and result of asynchronous operation. So and here I have a two. We have the two way to create a promise. So the first one we use the instant promise by use new promise. So when we use new promise and we will create of instant with the name a promise of the class promise. So I will open for you can see. So in the first way to create promise, I have the variable with the name is promise in here. So I assign it equal new and I call the class promise. So now promise in here is instance of the class promised. And in promise, we have the callback arguments in callback function. In that callback function, we have two parameters. So the first parameters is resolve and the second parameters is reject. So when we use resolve and when we use reject. So resolve we use when it represents for asynchronous operation success and we have the data. And when we use reject a it represent for asynchronous operations is failure and we have the message of failure and we use reject here. And after I say it, we can see we have the promise in here. It now is an object. So this object will have the stage and result. So with promise state, we have the three stages of promise. The first state of promise is bending. We have the first state is bending, and the second state is fulfill, and the final state of promise is rejected. So with state is bending, state bending is a when asynchronous operation need time and we need to wait. So it no have any the result. So it will have the state is bending. So after the asynchronous is finished and have the success result, so state of promise is fulfilled. And after the asynchronous operations is finished and failure, and we have the message of failure, so state of promise now is rejected. So we can see here in promise prototype, when I open it, we can see we have a lot of methods, including catch, constructor, finally, and then. So when we use if methods, so I have in here. So when we have the promise, we will call the then in here. And in that, we also have all the arguments a callback function with the response, and we can console the response. And yes, when I say it, you can see we have the response a 100 because in here when we have the logic a if true and it will execute this result 100. So I told you before a result 100 a represent for asynchronous operations a success as have the data from database a 100. So now when it's success it will execute the then in here and the callback function in then will execute it and the result and responding here is the data from a server. We have here a 100 and we also have the catch. We have the errors message in here console to see the errors message. When I say it, you don't see the errors message because now we simulate for the data and the asynchronous operation is success. But now I will change the if in here is phone to execute the reject in here a represent for asynchronous operations in failure and have the message failure is server errors. And I say it, you can see here we have the errors and errors message is server errors. And there's a don't execute because then only skill when we when asynchronous a finish with success state. And with failure state, it only execute the catch. And also we have the finally, and finally will execute it even though the asynchronous operations is either success or failure. It's also execute the finally here. So I will print the message end. You can see if the asynchronous operations is failure, it's also execute the finally. We have the end in here. But when I change it, it's true. So when asynchronous operation is success with the rest 100, it's also execute the finally in here. We have also have the result in end. So when it's then in here, we if we use another then dot then in here and we bring the message the second then the second then. When I say it, you can see here the second dance is executed when the first dance is finished. So now, and then in here, it will execute it sequentially from the top to bottom. So we finished the promise created by you new promise in here is manual. So we go through the promise created by user methods a fetch or respond dot JSON. I will comment in here. So I will open this command. In here, we don't use the new promise. We use the fetch methods in here and put the arguments API with URL in here. We can see here we want to get all information of user by use fetch methods. And we also have the promise. So I will console promise for you can see. So you can see now promise also have the all information same like the promise by we use the new promise in here. So it's also have the state result and also have prototype is catch finally and then. So we can use the all the then to get the data. So in here we can see it's promised. We can use then in here to get response from server. So response from server, we can see here we have the response in here. But now we have all information, including its body, status, URLs. But we don't need to use all that information. We need to information of user. So now we return in here as a response document. So response document is also an asynchronous operation. So it will create a promise. So it will create promise in here. So when we have the promise, we also can use the then is below in here to get the data after the asynchronous operations is finished with success data. So we can have the data in here is all information of user, including the address, company, email, etc. So when also in facing here is success, but if the fetch have some errors from server, I have example. So if I change some here some things like drawing here when I say it, you can see if have some errors in here, it will execute the cache in here and we will see these errors message. And finally, if the success or failure, it will execute the in finally in here, and we have the message is finished. So it's a promise by we use the fetch and respond doctrine like this. I will comment this. And now we go through the problem we met before when we use the callback. In here, we met the callback hell and how we can solve the callback hell in here by using promise. So to use promise in here, I have opened the comments in here comment. When I open comment, you can see all the things. So we use the fetch. So we want to fetch a user, the first user in database. As after we have the information of the first user in database, we use user ID to get all the posts of user. As after we have all the posts of user, we use uh, the first box of that user with the index is 0 in here, and we use the ID of that spot to get all the comments we have of user. So we can see here we use fast, and after that we use then with respond doctrines also create a asynchronous operation, and it will create a promise object. So we can use then to get user in here. As after that, we get the user ID input into URL of fetch in here. And it's same like the boss and here to get all the comments of user. So in here, we can see, so all information in here, if we want to get the boss, it depends information of user we get from the fetch in here. As after we have the post, so we want to get the comments. It's also dependent on the post in above in the fetch in here. So, but we don't do it same like this because with this way we will create the callback hell. But now when we use the promise, we can see here all the thing we can get the information of user and all the posts and also the comments of user, but it's very easy to we can see because we can see the then in here is the in the column, and we easily to see the all the step. And in the future when we want to maintain it, it's very easier for we can maintain that's code, as we can see some bug to fix. It's very easy for us. So now we after we finish the promise, we move through the four sections. We discover about async await. So with async await, we can I will open the comments in here. So to use async away, if we don't use async before the function normal function in here, so the function get used to comment in here just the normal function. But when I use async before the function, it's become a async function. So with async function, so it's notified for us in this function will execute asynchronous operation. So we have the in function, we have the try scope and catch scope in here. So in try scope, we will execute call API to get the data from server, and also in catch, we will uh, bring the errors, catch the error message, and so for user can see the errors message. So in here, we also in try, we have the variable in user response, and we use await. So await we use when we want to await something, need to the time to await. So await is when we get data from server, so we need the time to get some information or some data from server or respond from server. So we use await in here. So to use await before the function, we need to have the async in here. If we don't have async in here, so we cannot use await in here. So now we have a user respond by away the fetch to the first user in database. So after we have respond. So respond user respond same like respond in then in here. So after we have user respond, we continue to await user respond decision in now a asynchronous operation, and it will create an promise object. So we await that's asynchronous operation, and we have the user after we await and have the success result. So await user respond notation same like the respond notation in here. We return from the then callback function in then, and we have the user in another then above then in here, below then in here. So now we can see the with the this write. So we write cost is very easily to follow because we have a user response, and after that we await user response, and we have the user from that. So it's very easy for us can read, and it's readable for everyone. As in when we use async away here, and it's easy then we use the promise. But the basically first in here is a promise, create a promise object. So the async away build from the promise. So but the async away with syntax in here is easy for us can follow and write it. When I say it, you can see here we have the five comments in here, same like we use the promise syntax in here. So now we finish the four sections, including synchronous and asynchronous tasks, callbacks, and problem with callback help. And we saw callback help by use promise. And we finish with use async away to make the promise easier for us can reach. So thank you everyone for watching this video. Good health and have a great day. Goodbye and see you in the next one.